In media, we'll just give everyone another minute here to file in before we get started with Cam Neely. Okay. We'll start with Matt Porter. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, morning, Cam. How are you?
I'm all right. How about yourself?
Doing fine. I actually have one a little bit out of left field, kind of a looking back question. Just with the benefit of hindsight, I'm wondering about the 2015 draft and how, obviously it was, a time of change. It was Don's first draft. You had the 3 first-round picks, some major trades. Kind of looking back, I mean, what lessons do you think, you, Don, the organization learned from how that broke for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I've looked back at that a lot, obviously. I think that the timing of when we hired Don and then when the draft was taking place would have been good. I think probably to have a little bit more time in between the hiring and the draft. Not to say that, Don wasn't involved in the amateur meetings, but he wasn't involved at the time, most of the time, thinking that he was making the picks. I think Don did everything he needed to do leading up to that draft to get 3 first-round picks. I thought the moves that he made were really good and poised to set us up for the future. The guys put the list together. I think maybe during that time we should have taken some time out. If we, as everybody knows, we tried to move up in the draft. It didn't work. We probably should have taken a time out and really just digested that list a little bit more. And then we, there's a pick that, one of our scouts really thought that the player wouldn't be available in the second round. Obviously hindsight is everything that we'd all love to have moving forward and thinking about making different decisions or better decisions, I guess. You can always do that in every draft, though, no matter where you pick and how many picks you have.
Sure. And related to that, one of the biggest free agents this year in this class is going to be Dougie Hamilton. And when you guys drafted him, going back since you were there, what made you decide to take him? And since this team has faced him in his prime now, what type of player would you say he's become?
Well, we certainly like his size, his skating, his offensive ability, especially on the offensive blue line. He's matured into a better two-way player. It's not just about the numbers, although he puts up really good numbers. So, you're in this game for a long time. You certainly like to believe players can learn and adapt a little bit more on the defensive side of the puck, which I think he has.
All right. Thanks, Cam.
Yep.
We'll go to Steve Conroy.
Hey, Cam, how you doing?
All right. How are you, Steve?
But going into the Islanders series, did you think you had the pieces to get more out of the bottom 6 than you did? And why do you think it didn't come together?
It's a really good question. I felt like, when we made those deals at the deadline, we had a pretty complete team. Obviously, as everybody knows, you get into playoffs, you pray for health, you pray for good goaltending, you pray for timely scoring. We didn't get the depth scoring that we thought we might get and we expected to get. So that was a little frustrating for us, for sure. Our penalty kill took a huge hit when we lost both Carlo and Miller, and they lit us up that one game. Which you look at how well our penalty kill did in Washington series compared to the Islander series, you'd think it might be reversed. But you got to give the Islanders credit for making the plays that they did to score on their power play. But Yeah, we could have used, looking back, he could have used a little bit more depth scoring. We thought we had the lines to do that. Unfortunately, it didn't unfold that way.
Thanks.
Joe McDonald.
Hey, Cam, how are you?
Good. How are you, Joe?
Good, thanks. Well, obviously, 10 years ago today, you guys reached hockey's ultimate goal. And now that you're looking ahead, what does this organization need to do in order to get back to that?
Well, we've had a pretty good stretch here where we've got in the finals a couple other times, just haven't been able to close the door. We've got to take a hard look at our roster this summer. Between Don and the coach, it takes off 1 year older, and that's something we're looking at. Like, what do we need to do for this next wave here? And that's something we have to work towards this off season.
Thanks, Cam.
Yeah.
Joe Haggerty.
Hey, Cam, I got a couple here for you. First off, kind of building on Joe's question there, just anything or a couple of things that jump out at you as far as needs going into this offseason after looking at the full picture from beginning to end last year. And I know I asked this with, there's still a lot of variables in play as to, who's coming back for your own guys. But in a perfect world, if you could add a thing or two to this team based on what you saw last year, what would it be?
Well, it's that elusive lefty we've been looking for. They can chew up a lot of minutes, maybe play in the second pairing with Carlo. That'd be more of a shutdown or some puck movement, some offensive blue line acumen. As we saw, you can never have enough D, and we never seem to have enough for some reason or another. We get banged up. I think our D this year had maybe 8 concussions, which is something I just don't know how to combat. But that position is something that we've been looking for a while, and hopefully we can do something to grab someone that's going to help maybe play 20 minutes a game for us.
And if I can bring you and your buddy Michael J. Fox's DeLorean to 10 years ago today to a happier memory, what sticks out in your mind? What do you remember from that day 10 years ago?
Well, just how nervous I was. Game 7 in the away building, you never know how it's going to play out. But for me, I was just so excited, not only for the group and the coaching staff and everybody that put the work in, during that season, but the fan base in particular, just how long they've been waiting for us to win another Stanley Cup. We had some runs over the years, but never was able to lift the cup. So for me, it was what it meant to the city of Boston and New England and our Bruins fans, to be honest with you. Just how excited and elated everyone was, and it was kind of a long time coming.
Thanks, Cam.
Yeah.
Kevin Dupont.
A couple here, Cam. In the last 5 or 6 years here, other than the Cup run in 19, it's been you've not been able to win after the first round. I'm wondering what the mood of Buffalo is. What's ownership's attitude at the moment?
Well, fortunately, they certainly want us to do better than we've done, and this year, I think the expectations were certainly a team that could get out of the second round at the very least. So some disappointment there. There's no question. They're giving us all the resources that we need to put championships teams together. But they also do recognize that everybody else, for the most part, is doing the same thing, and it's a challenge. Playoff hockey is more competitive than it used to be. There's a lot more competitive balance than there used to be. But they were excited about our team. They were excited about what we did at the deadline, and obviously disappointed not getting out of the second round.
And this second question sort of touches back on one you answered, but it got so garbled, at least on my end. So I'll take another run at it here. I know after last season, I got a sense of urgency from you, if I remember correctly, you saying, I really want us to take a very hard look at this roster. Do you feel the same now today after this disappointment, or is this somehow muted?
Good question. I mean, it really is going to depend upon what happens with some of the UFAs that we're going to look to try and sign. We have some holes if we can't get those guys signed, and that would certainly dictate what kind of direction we may have to go in. I can tell you this: I know that Marsh and Berge, understandably, would like us to take another run. Which, if we get the pieces signed that we'd like to, I think it's worth taking one more shot at it here, depending on what we can do on the back end as well. Tuukka is up in the air with his surgery, so we'll see where that goes. But we're pretty confident in our goaltender with Jeremy Swayman and also Vladar. I mean, haven't seen enough of Vladar, but Swayman gave us a little bit of a taste of what type of goalie he could be in the National Hockey League. So we feel pretty comfortable starting the season with him.
Okay, thank you.
Jimmy Murphy.
Hey, Cam, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I was asking Donnie about this. I think, one of the topics after each season, before each season for the last couple of seasons has been sort of the transition of leadership of the core there. Obviously, guys are getting older and you try to filter new guys. You got a good guy that fit in Charlie Coyle. But I'm just wondering, in your assessment right now, where does that need to go from here? Do you need to go look externally, or do you think you guys have it from within?
Well, I think for the immediate future, we've got a really good leadership group, and depending on who's ends up coming back, but in the long term, obviously you want to have your younger players develop into these great leaders that are learning from the Marchands and the Bergerons and the Rass and the Charas and the Krejcis. So, Charlie McAvoy is one of those guys that certainly has grown a lot this year. He's one that we rely on to be a leader in the future, and he's starting to do that now.
Just in terms of that, I'm glad you brought him up. Do you see any similarities? You play with Ray. You saw him develop as a leader. Donnie actually referenced him earlier. Do you see similarities in them at all, whether it's leadership qualities, playing style?
Certainly the amount of minutes that Charlie can play is, Ray was a horse out there. I mean, he just, I remember watching one time he had a long shift. He came to the bench, took 2 deep breaths, and he was ready to go. So McAvoy is similar in that regard, where he can play a lot of minutes and play minutes at a high level. So that's a similarity I see right now. Charlie's developing a little bit more on the offensive blue line. Ray had that natural ability, I think, right from the get-go, but Charlie's certainly coming along with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Last one, Chris Ryan.
Hey, Cam, hope all is well with you. Do you see the roster as is, along with signing the UFAs, as being sufficient enough in your view going into next year? In other words, do you feel like this roster can still win a championship, or do you feel like you do need to add something else, or do you feel like the obviously development of young players and the UFAs would be enough to compete for a cup?
Yeah, I don't think we can look at the roster now when you lose in the second round and say you can compete for a Stanley Cup. I mean, players that are on the roster that are coming back certainly need to improve. You need to get more out of the third and fourth line. Even the second line, we didn't get enough out of in that last series. So, I think we have to look at improving our roster to improve our chances to win a cup.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Cam, and thank you, media, for joining us. We'll send out a transcript shortly this afternoon. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Cam.
Okay. Bye-bye.